welcome back to another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with those movers and shakers, the film and TV makers, the producers, directors, writers, actors, cinematographers, production designers, costume designers, sound mixers, sound editors, film editors, composers, authors, stuntmen, stunt coordinators, you name it, and I talk to them. And we're going to do some talking today here with two wonderful filmmakers. But can you believe it's already October? Where has this year gone? It's a blur. Hard to believe we're already back in awards season, though. Wow. But we're not talking awards today. We're talking indie gems that I think are wonderful. So we're looking at two indie gems with two wonderful filmmakers today on Behind the Lens. First up, I'll be chatting with veteran actor turned producer and now screenwriter Lisa Brenner, who is on hand discussing her feature narrative screenwriting debut, One Big Happy Family, which she also produces and in which she stars alongside Linda Lavin in what turned out to be her final big screen performance. Second half of the show, you'll hear from Devin Montgomery, who makes his feature directorial debut with the drama Monsters Within. And like Lisa, he also stars in his film as well as serving as writer and editor. We've got two multitasking filmmakers today on the show. But let's talk about One Big Happy Family, which is actually based on Lisa's own true story and explores themes of family, identity, and unity, and all done with heart and humor. The synopsis goes, on her 40th birthday, Rachel is grappling with a looming midlife crisis and the nerve-wracking task of delivering a speech at her daughter's bat mitzvah. But when a DNA test unexpectedly reveals that she's only half Jewish and her beloved father isn't her biological parent, Rachel's life is thrown into disarray, and suddenly she's embarking on a hilarious journey with her eccentric mother, Lenore, to find out who she really is. And as if you hadn't already guessed, Linda Lavin plays the eccentric mother Lenore to Lisa's Rachel. Directed by Matt Sohn, who you have seen umpteen television episodics that Matt has directed. He does comedy exceedingly well. One Big Happy Family is written, produced, and stars Lisa Brenner, along with Linda Lavin, Lumi Pollock, Dante Brasco, Sabrina Cofield, and Josh Fadham, among others. I got to tell you, I laughed from beginning to end. While the film focuses in large part on the relationship between a Jewish mother and daughter, the film will resonate with almost every daughter out there, be they with Jewish mothers, German mothers, Italian mothers, Hispanic mothers, as all of those mothers have that Badinsky quality to them, which is one of the film's through lines that really lets Linda Lavin shine. The story itself is very well structured in terms of story and character development, as well as the visuals under Matt Sohn's direction and the work of cinematographer Ryan Little. I'm particularly enamored with many of the one-liners that Lisa has peppered throughout, the majority of which I believe are delivered by Lavin, who brings such life, such joy, and such humor to the proceedings. Lisa has a terrific grasp of the mother-daughter colloquial dynamic, as well as for writing dialogue that feels natural and conversational, which is very key in a film like this that is an ensemble and has a lot of people and a lot of dialogue. Now, as you're about to hear, Lisa discusses the genesis of the film and why, after her 30-some years in the business, this was the time to tell this story. She's a very hands-on producer, so we also delve into the casting process, as well as her collaboration with director Matt Sohn, and the decisions as to the visual tonal bandwidth and the look and feel that Lisa wanted for the film. And she not only goes into great detail about casting Linda Lavin, but has some wonderful, heartwarming anecdotes for us about Lavin. Lisa also touches on the challenges of concurrently balancing acting, writing, and producing, as well as talks about her future plans to direct. And a real bonus for a lot of the actors out there, the challenges of staying relevant and working over the decades in an ever-changing medium. And so much more we cover. Lisa is an absolute joy, and we had so much fun chatting about One Big Happy Family. I hope you'll have as much fun listening to us.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa. I am so happy to speak with you, Lisa, about One Big Happy Family.
Thank you.
Number one, I've admired your work going all the way back to The Patriot when you played Anne Howard. You were luminous and just lit up the screen.
Thank you.
To watch what you've done with your career all this time, it's just amazing. And now to see you jump into producing and writing and starring in One Big Happy Family is just fantastic. And I have to say, I laughed from beginning to end. This film will be so resonant to, I think, almost every daughter out there. I don't care if you're Jewish.
Yeah.
You know, it's not limited to Jewish mothers. German mothers, Italian mothers, Hispanic mothers. They've all got that Budinsky quality to them. And
Yeah.
it's so connective, and because you've got that, then it's so easy to get into the whole DNA, search for the biological father issue, and mother, how could you not tell me anything? Just incredibly, incredibly structured in terms of story and character development, and then also visually. And I know you've got a hand in everything here. But start with, where did this story come from? Is this a story personal to you?
It sure is. It's based on my own true story, crazy enough. And I like to tell people that while it's definitely not autobiographical, there's definitely a lot of fiction, and I have fictionalized a lot of stuff for dramatic purposes. But I would say the craziest things that happen in the movie, the funniest things, are the actual true parts. Yeah, it is based on my own story that I just kind of had to do something with it at some point in my life. So I wrote the movie.
Oh, my goodness. And of course, when you say the craziest parts are really the true parts, truth is always stranger and weirder than fiction. So yeah. I'm not surprised to hear you say that. What made this the right time for you to sit down and write this script and make this film? Because this is the kind of film that you need life experience behind you, I think, to tell this story and to perform the story, even though so much of it you have lived yourself. But this is an interesting time in your lengthy career to bring this to the fore. I'm curious why this is the right time for you.
Yeah, well, I wrote the script during the pandemic. All life stopped, and all I really had with me was my pen or computer, the case may be. And so I'm just such a creative person that I needed to be doing something. And so I wrote it, and I honestly didn't realize at the time that I was writing, I was just telling my own story, how timely the story is, and how I believe how needed this story is at this point in our history and for our country at this time of such division, to realize that we really are all one. And what my character goes through is she starts out Jewish. She has a half-brother who's Muslim. She has a half-brother who's Catholic. And that is actually true. And it's just, I find that it is, what the message I want to get across is unity, and that we are so connected more than we could ever imagine, or what we think about ourselves, because suddenly it all might just be blown out of the water, that's what happened to me.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm guessing it did take you time to process everything that happened to you before you could get a handle on putting it on paper.
Absolutely. I mean, the funny thing is, in real life, the story spanned over about 8 years. Mm-hmm. But in my movie, it takes place over 2 weeks. So from the finding out to, being okay with it all or not okay, I don't want to give any spoilers. But in reality, I had a screening recently, and a woman came up to me in tears just saying that she has a story very similar to mine. She found out her father's not her father, and she's devastated. And she said to me, "But I see you're okay with it. Do you think I'm going to be okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, you will be okay, but just know that this has taken me time." It's a fictionalized part of the movie is that it's so quick, but in reality, emotions take a lot of time to settle. It took a lot of time when your identity is really shattered to come back together and to learn these life lessons and to learn about yourself and all of what we make of it and what family is and who you are and all of that. I mean, it took me a long time, a lot of conversations with my mom and my family and my therapist, of course. But it takes time, and I really hope that it connects with other people who've gone through something similar like this, or even not. Even I feel like whoever you are, you could connect to this movie on some level.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I'm really curious. I mean, Linda Lavin is just golden here. She is fantastic, as to be expected. Her comedic timing is fantastic. She delivers one-liners like no other. It's like I just cracked up when, she's got the one line you give her. Well, I've seen every episode of Murder, She Wrote. And I just about fell out of my chair laughing. Because this is truly, when you get to a certain age point and you watch the whole series, and probably still do, it does. It it validates you that, yes, you know how investigation works. And the attitude and the delivery was just good. Then you and Linda have such great screaming matches at some points. But I'm curious, how much is the character of Lenore like your own mother?
Well, it's so funny. So Lenore is very much like my mother. However, I feel like Linda took my writing and just elevated it to a level that I could never write. She did not want to play the stereotype at all, so she was always going against it. She would argue with me on a lot of the lines. I would fight with her. And every argument, and I say that as like a mother and daughter arguing, like the way I argue with my mother, it's all love, it's all respect. She would win, of course, because she's my mother.
Yeah.
But everything meant so much to her. She never just wanted to ever just say a line. She's such an artist. What seems so natural is so calculated, and that's just her artistry for being in this business for so many years and winning Tony Awards. And I'm so grateful. But yes, it is a lot my mother, but it's elevated to a level that I could never have even imagined with Linda playing this role.
Now, how involved because you're also a producer on this film, how involved were you in the casting process?
Oh, I was very, very involved. Linda was the first person cast, and it's because when I was writing it, I knew she had to be the person to play the mom. And so I wrote her a letter, and I sent it to her agent with the script, basically begging her, saying, like, you have to play this role. And so the next day she responded, and she said she wanted to do a Zoom with me, and that was it. Like, from that moment on, like, she and I were mother and daughter. Like, that was it. And we would text all the time, you know, the silliest little things, and get together all the time for breakfast or whatever. And we really, we got such an incredible friendship. She was my mentor in ways that I never could have imagined.
Wow.
An incredible woman. I'm very, very grateful. We had a cast and crew screening here in LA in October of last year, and she was there, and she loved it, and she was taking selfies in the seats, and which, by the way, she was always taking selfies. Like, we'd be in the middle of, like, really serious scene, and she'd be, like, taking pictures. I mean, what are you doing?
Oh, my
She's
God.
hilarious. But, yeah, so she loved the movie, and she gave it her blessing, and when I wrote this movie, I wrote it really as a love letter to my mother, but what it really has become is a love letter to Linda.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be celebrating. Yeah, the horror at the end, for me, it's a celebration of her. She's funny in it. She's vulnerable in it. She's everything. She's so strong. And I think she gives the performance of her career. I really, really do.
I mean,
I was honored.
And don't forget, she also plays a very sexy grandma, not to be called grandma.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So we can't overlook that aspect of Lenore.
Oh, yeah. She has her love interest in the movie.
Yes, she does. Now, you know, there's another cast member you have whose character is really a very key element in the story, is Josh Fadem as Bobby. You and Josh are just fantastic together. And those sequences and what he brings with his map on the back of his office with strings doing a DNA search. Okay, well, I found 20 people here and I found 15 people here. And, ooh, we got a tattoo artist half-brother. Hilarious. But then the ease at which the two of you, your chemistry on screen is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. He was so lucky. Like, we were so lucky that he came into our lives. All we met was on Zoom, on his callback thing. We just had like a Zoom reading. And then the next time I saw him, he was on set doing his scene. And it was, you know, it's like that's this world now. Everything's virtual. And you just kind of hope, pray that, you know, on screen it'll be there. And he's so good and he's so sweet that he just brought that soulfulness to the screen and to the character. He's just amazing. He's a stand-up comedian, so he's so funny. So he just brought all of that to the character too. I was so lucky that we got him. It was amazing.
I mean, he really just leapt off the screen for me. From the first time we have the connective tissue between Rachel and Bobby, and just a really wonderful dynamic there. But now I'm curious for you, playing the character of Rachel, how challenging was it for you to differentiate Lisa from the performance, the actor, Lisa Personal from the actor playing a character?
Right. I think by the time we were actually in pre-production and we would have some rehearsal, I think by that point I'm playing Rachel, because Rachel isn't like me. There's a lot of things that is very different from me. What I found the most challenging, though, which is so funny, was you would think that being the writer, and I knew everyone's lines by heart, backwards and forwards, like down to the punctuation. I was so bad with my lines. It got to the point where the script supervisor stopped correcting me, and she's like, oh, she's hopeless. Like, I could not get my lines right, and I felt so bad for the other actors. I would give them the wrong cues, and I would just say the wrong things, because sometimes I would just start listening to the other actors, like Linda, because she's so incredible, that I would just be watching her like, oh, wow, she's so wonderful. Oh, wait a second, I'm in the scene, you know. That was probably the most challenging part, being the writer. But the actor part, someone in a screening asked me, like, why did I cast myself? And when I first wrote this, I was going to actually, like, have a casting call and cast. But I'm like, okay, we're so low budget. You know, it'll just make everything easier if I just play it. You know, it's just like, okay, that's one character we don't have to worry about. And that's really how I was cast as that role. Like, oh, yeah, I've acted before. I could do that. But, yeah, for me, it was really about being the writer and producer of it, that was my main focus.
Now,
but, yeah, it was not good with my line.
How did Matt Sohn get involved as director? And what was your collaboration like with Matt?
Oh, my God. So a very, very dear friend of mine is a television writer here in L.A., and I asked her, do you know any directors? And she said, Lisa, Matt Sohn is your director. That's it. He is your director. And I'm like, okay. So I sent him the script. He called me later that day and said, I love this. He's texted me pictures of himself at his bar mitzvah. He's the kindest, most gentle soul human being. We had the most beautiful collaboration as director and producer. I couldn't have asked for better. The actors loved him. The crew loved him. He, coming from a television background, he brought all of his technical expertise, so that, like, from the second we had cameras rolling on day one, he was prepared beyond any director I've ever worked with. So I was more like I was about the lines, and he was more about the visual, and just together we were just perfect together. I'm so, so grateful for him.
Oh, I mean, and I have loved Matt's work forever. He does an amazing job, especially with comedy. And I think the speed at which you have to shoot television episodics definitely helps when you're doing a low budget, no budget, micro budget indie film.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he also has been a cinematographer. You know, he started working in the camera department, which also explains why your visual tonal bandwidth and the film's visual grammar, and his work with your DP with Ryan Little, why everything, it's light, it's bright, the framing of the shots, so that they're a little wider to encompass people and to show the metaphorically show the familial connective tissue at all times. Just beautifully, beautifully done. But
thank you.
Now, were you involved in your work with Matt? Did you have discussions about maybe allowing improv or ad-libbing during any of the scenes? Or did the two of you agree to pretty much just stick to the script?
Well, we definitely wanted to stay to the script, because definitely with comedy, lines have a certain rhythm. So then if actors start playing around with it, that could easily unravel everything. But at the same time, we wanted to be respectful to the actors' own process and their own creativity. So we would allow for some improv as long as they gave us at least one take as written. I think it's a good balance to have. And a lot of times, you know, what an actor would say, it's like, oh, wait, that was actually funnier than what I wrote. Let's just leave it at that. So, yeah, so it was playing that fine balance of both. It was allowing the actors to be as creative as they want, with also sticking to the script, because, I mean, besides my lines, I was so on with everyone else's lines of the rhythm and the punctuation. And, yeah, comedy has that certain timing that we just wanted to make sure to stick with.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things that carries through into the editing of the film, because it's very difficult to edit comedy, to hit those beats. You don't want long pauses, but you want the joke to land, or the activity to land. And I think that your editor, I think that Brian did an excellent job of
he was wonderful.
Of cutting the film. Now,
absolutely,
I love some of his work, especially some of his visual effects that he's done. But just on every level, Lisa, One Big Happy Family, it is a joy. A laugh out loud, funny, heartfelt joy.
Thank you.
That after I watched it once, I had to watch it a second time.
Oh my goodness, wow. Thank you.
It's so enjoyable. Now, what surprises me, did you ever think about directing this? You're already producing, you're writing, you're starring in it. Did you think about directing it yourself?
I did. I did think about it for like a second, but then I thought my head was going to explode, and I'm like, you know what? I'll direct the next one. It was too much. And I think for my next project, I probably will direct, but I might not be in it. You know, it's a lot of physical pressure when you're the actor in something. I really love being at a point in my career where I don't have to worry about what I look like. You know, where the actor, it's all about your physical appearance. Mm-hmm. So I think at some point I would like to, you know, just completely be behind the camera for. I did that for a short film. It was one of the best days of my life filming. It's a really nice feeling to just create without having to be the actor on screen. So I'm going to try that out probably for the next one.
I'm curious, Lisa, for your last question, I've got to ask you about, because you have done television, you've done episodics, you've done short films, you've done feature films, you've done soap operas. Some of the best training ground in the world are soap operas. So with all the changes in the industry over the years and the diversity into all the different mediums that you've jumped and genres, what kind of changes have you seen in the industry, and how you managed to master them and keep consistently working after all these decades?
Yeah, I'm a little obsessed with working, so I think that's why I keep working. Gosh, that is such a huge, epic question. But, you know, being of Gen X, I have seen when I started out in the industry, it was very, very sexist, a lot of that type of stuff on set. I think the set life has become so much more respectable. The role of women, working all the time with women directors and writers and producers. I didn't have any of that growing up. And I just think it's such a great time for women, for minorities, for any gender. So I think things are really swinging in a positive direction. And I will do what I can to, you know, be on set, whether it's writing my own things or directing. I just love the set life. I love the energy. It's in my bloodstream. And so I'll just keep doing what I can to just keep going.
Well, I hope you do, because you are a much needed presence. And, you know, and the spectrum, be it television or film, just wouldn't be the same if you weren't around. Let's be honest here, Lisa. After over 30 years, there would be a void without seeing you pop up in things all the time.
You're so sweet.
So,
thank you. Thank you so much.
Lisa, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today about One Big Happy Family. As I said, I love this film. It is so much fun. It is so relatable and resonant for everybody on multiple levels, be it, you know, searching for a biological parent, be it mother-daughter relationships, be it Jewish mothers, Hispanic mothers, Italian mothers, German mothers. You've got something for everybody here.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope so.
And I can't wait to see what you do next. And I hope it's writing and directing your own project.
Thank you. I will keep you posted.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
And that was actor, writer, producer Lisa Brenner talking about One Big Happy Family. Opened in theaters on Friday the 3rd, this past Friday, so you can see it right now. And if for no other reason to see this film, go see it for a gloriously funny Linda Lavin in her final role. You will not be disappointed. Now, we're going to go a bit darker with Devin Montgomery and Monsters Within. This is not a horror movie. Just letting you know that. So it has horror in it, but not the kind of slasher, bloody Halloween horror that I'm sure most of you were thinking. Monsters Within is the story of Luke Wolf, a war veteran. He returns to his hometown where his sister Ellie, who has Down syndrome, lives. They, as you will learn in the film, very, very close. Luke and Ellie. But he comes back and things are different. Or maybe it's not that things are different, but he's different. After years of running from his problems, through the military and thereafter, before he finally journeys home, he must now face his own monsters. Written, directed, produced, and starring Devin Montgomery as Luke Wolf, Monsters Within also stars Samuel French, Skeeta Jenkins, Kendall Kavanagh, Katie Hayes, and Devin's sister, Daniela Montgomery, who has Down syndrome. This is a very impressive feature debut all around. Monsters Within evolved from a short film Devin made in 2020 called A Monster Within, which focused on a brother-sister relationship inspired by his real-life relationship with his sister Daniela. Devin wanted to tell a story that highlighted this dynamic and included his sister as the heart and soul of the film. Additionally, the film explores the idea that everyone has their own monsters within, personal struggles and challenges, which Devin observed both in himself and others. The story was also shaped by real-life events, such as his sister's health issues, which led to changes in the film's direction and deepened its emotional impact. And Devin talks about this and how the entire film shifted during filming because he wanted to include his sister, and her health took a turn for the worse. So all of this led him to create a film that's very introspective and that people can relate to on a personal level, reflecting the universal experience of facing inner demons. There are some beautiful visuals thanks to not only cinematographer Brandon Stewart with Dutch dangles and macro ECUs, but there's one scene in particular that showcases a monologue by Devin's character of Luke, which was also shot by Devin himself. Because of transportation issues, time frames, this was the only time that Devin could shoot this particular scene. Brandon wasn't available. He couldn't get anybody else. He shot this scene himself, and it is amazing. Now, as Devin and I talk about the film, he highlights the challenges of wearing multiple hats as writer, director, producer, editor, and lead actor, as well as emphasizing the emotional intensity of portraying a veteran with PTSD. And we talk about montages. As you will see in the film, Devin loves montages. One of the interesting aspects of our conversation that other filmmakers will appreciate is a discussion of the editing process, which Devin referred to as challenging and transformative, but also nerve-wracking and ultimately fascinating and rewarding. Devin was editing while he was filming, and because he was shooting the film mostly in order, it gave him the opportunity to review and adjust the story as it unfolded, and therefore make creative decisions on the fly, especially after seeing impactful performances that inspired new storylines and character developments. So not only is he editing while he's filming, he's also rewriting based on the edit, based on what he's already shot. and doing all of this concurrently. Interestingly, he taught himself how to edit during the 2020 pandemic lockdown, which he describes as a major learning experience, but one that played a key part of this film's creative evolution. So take a listen as writer, director, producer, editor, and actor Devin Montgomery talks about...
Hey, Debbie.
Hey, Devin, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Just fine. Thanks so much for taking time to talk with me about your film, Monsters Within.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I have to say, this is quite an impressive... This is your first feature narrative, is it not?
Correct. It is, yes.
A very impressive feature debut.
Oh, well, thank you.
You have some really beautiful visuals in here. Your DP, Brandon Stewart, does a really nice job with some of the very significant points, such as dutching a lot of the angles, a lot of extreme close-ups that bring us into the intensity. But what's most impressive of all is your producer, writer, director, editor, and the lead actor playing Luke Wolf. How did you not go crazy?
Yeah, it definitely was wearing a lot of hats, doing a lot of roles. But I've always been a big fan of just, challenging myself. And, what bigger challenge than when you're setting out to make a feature film for the first time? Just writing, directing, and acting was a challenge. But I really learned so much along the journey that I think I was just sort of soaking it all in that, to be honest, there were times I just didn't have time to really let it maybe affect me to where it was just really overwhelming. It was like, we got to do this now, and if we're not doing this now, then, it was kind of up to me in a lot of moments to just kind of be the ringleader for it all. So all of that pressure just really sort of helped on that journey. So, yeah.
So I'm really curious, because you are wearing so many hats, how difficult was it for you to switch those hats on and off, or did you? Because we've got writer Devin, who wants to preserve his words. We have director Devin, who has a visual vision to bring those words to life. We have editor Devin, who can go and rip the whole thing apart. And producer Devin, who's looking at the bottom line, with actor Devin trying to take direction from director Devin. How did you manage to compartmentalize or switch these hats on and off? Or did you switch them off with your focus at all?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was because as far as from the writing perspective, it was in some ways easier to really visualize how these scenes could potentially play out. I'm a big fan in finding the moments and the real truth in the scenes when you're actually filming them and doing them. Mm-hmm. But as a writer, though, it did help a lot where I was able to visualize, since I knew I was going to be in a lot of the scenes. I kind of had a really good idea of how we were going to maybe tackle approaching certain scenes. But as far as directing and acting at the same time, it definitely took a couple of days, I would say, to find a real rhythm. But that's kind of the beauty of independent film is you can really experiment and just try different things to see what works and what's not working. So, yeah, and like you mentioned with Brandon Stewart as the DP, there was a lot of trust in him as well, because that's the other thing with independent film is sometimes you just don't have a lot of time if you're able to secure a really great location. So there's a lot of trust. Just we got into a really good rhythm and on the same wavelength as far as our mindsets. And, we love the same movies. We love the same performances. So I would just at times have to just almost just look to him when we were done, and I would hear cut and then look at him, and he would kind of give me a look like, okay, we got that, or let's try one more. And so instead of, worrying about watching playback and really like trying to get in my head too much about certain scenes or something, there's just a lot of trust. But that's the beauty of filmmaking is it's such a collaborative process. So you just need to surround yourself with people that you really trust, and that definitely helped my mindset a lot.
Well, you just said something that's really important when it comes to this film in particular, that you would look to Brandon, he'd yell cut. Sometimes he would say, we need to go again.
Yeah.
You have some incredibly emotional scenes in Monsters Within. How difficult was it for you to get into those moments of rage and anger and frustration so physically and viscerally, only to then have to do it again, possibly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, I knew going into it, you know, it was going to be a very cathartic process and a very cathartic thing for me as just being the actor in it. And so since I had these scenes in mind, I guess it was just a lot of mentally preparing for it, because playing a veteran and dealing with these topics like PTSD and trauma and dealing with things like loss and grief, I knew like those are very important topics, especially nowadays. I feel like it's being talked a lot more about, but you have to really approach that very responsibly as well. So my parents were both in the Air Force, and I grew up on military bases. So I've seen a lot of people that have dealt with PTSD, and I talked with a lot of people that have PTSD. So in those processes of doing all of that and just really kind of having this film in my head for a long time, approaching those scenes, I was so ready to do those scenes. So by the time it got to the point of doing them, it was a lot of mentally preparing. But there is one scene that was probably the hardest that I've ever done. It takes place in the middle of the film. It's a one-take monologue, and it's just me in front of the fire. Well, that day and how I filmed that scene, it actually helped a lot to get in that mindset, because Brendan Stewart wasn't able to show up that day because he was sick, and we were ready to go. And I pretty much had the mindset of like, okay, since this is just me in this scene, I'm just going to film this scene myself, because I had all the equipment, I had the location and everything set up. So I filmed that scene by myself, and that helped me get in that mindset even more. So in some ways, I'm so glad that it worked out that way. And it was just moments like that kept happening while we were filming, where it was like everything seems to be falling into place and like being a perfect setup for what we're doing. So I trust my gut. That's one thing I've learned. It was challenging, but that's something I wanted to do with this film. So I'm just so proud of what we were able to make.
Well, that one particular scene you just mentioned, that comes in at the 54-minute, 30-second mark. And it's an incredible monologue. I love how you shot it. It's all ECU. It's just you in different angles with the sweat, then your interstitial cut with an image that we're not going to reveal.
Right.
Encompassing the rage and the anger. It is an incredibly powerful scene, and to find out that you shot that yourself, wow. Mm-hmm. But the monologue itself is just killer. No pun intended here. It is absolutely killer. And the fire, the way you have staged that with the fire and the glow you get from the fire, you're getting motions colliding, because the fire, you've got the gold, the warmth of the gold, the warmth of the flame, but then you also have the red and orange tinges that come from it that are rage. So we're seeing, you set this up so beautifully from a visual standpoint, particularly in that scene, and I'm very, very impressed with that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, it was a very challenging scene, and I remember there was a lot of frustrations that were just happening in like my own personal life at the time too. So, like I said, it's just been a very cathartic experience making the film. But that one scene in particular, I knew was going to be really tough. So I wanted to try to prepare as best I could, and I put a lot of thought into how I was going to set that up. So just how you described that with the fire, like, I'm so glad that came across, because it was all very intentional. So I appreciate you saying that.
And I just love how when Luke is just battling his own demons, his own monsters within, and banging on the head, kind of like a kid throwing a tantrum, banging his head on a wall, but you're taking your fists and pounding them on your head. Very, very powerful emotional expression. And this happens in multiple points in the film.
Yeah, it's definitely, we tackle a lot of emotion throughout the film for sure.
You definitely do. So I'm curious, what led you to this particular story? What was the impetus for this? Now, I know you had a short film a few years ago called A Monster Within. Now, is this an extension of that?
It is, yeah. So in 2020, just because of the nature of, the way the world was at that time, and we had the shutdown and everything, I pretty much, like, acting, that's always been my main focus and my passion. But during that break that we had, and just everybody, I felt like everyone kind of was left with just themselves, and like did a lot of inner looking into themselves and whatnot. Well, I kind of realized in some ways I was sitting around and waiting for someone to give me this opportunity, whatever that is. In no other aspect do I do that in my life. So long story short, we created a short film called A Monster Within. And I always knew I wanted it to be about a brother-sister relationship where one has special needs. Because my sister in real life, who's in both the short and the feature film, she has Down syndrome. And so I knew I wanted to tell that story. So obviously in a short film, you have, about a 10-minute look into, a certain look into a story. But whenever we went on the film festival run during 2021, after we made it, I really got to see people's reactions and just how really people were. And they even though it was 10 minutes, they were like finding things that they could put their own self into, that maybe they were dealing with, or a certain relationship that they've had in their life. So I just saw a lot of interesting elements about that. So when I was creating the feature film, I definitely wanted to flesh it out a little bit more. But the way that life goes, sometimes things never go as planned. But that's kind of the beauty too, is because when things don't go as planned, sometimes that's for the best. And so the original story for the film had to change a lot because my sister was actually going through some health issues right before we started to set out to make the film. So I had to really change the dynamic in the story between Luke and the L character. That wasn't the original plan, but like I said, I had to I talked with my parents a lot, who's been so supportive of this, and I just wanted my sister to be the heart and soul of the film and be as involved as she possibly could at the time. And she's doing a lot better now, which is fantastic. But the story that we've created in the film now, I think it has been way more impactful for people. So dealing with those emotions, I also wanted to create other characters where, everybody in life is going through their own thing. So you kind of get a gist of everyone dealing with, these monsters within, and it's different for everybody. But at the same time, we're all connected, feeling all of these emotions.
Well, and I have to say, your sister Daniela has a smile that just lights up the screen.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was the one area too. I wanted to really make that very apparent. Because even on my worst days, like when I see her smile, that can totally change my mood.
Yeah, she just looks like an absolute angel, which is why you have a crystal angel, I am sure, that pops up in this film.
Yes.
Yeah, just wonderful. And I'm so happy you could do a workaround and change things so you could still include Daniela in the film and in the story. Now, you said you just said something very key here, because it is monsters. And everybody has more than one monster. You really do a good job of conveying this. We see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like Cyrus. He's got monsters, but they're all evil. There's no goodness anywhere in Cyrus. You've got Sammy, the bartender, who Katie Hayes does a wonderful job as Sammy, and she's got a great, in the third act, you give her a great monologue as she's talking about, she's preparing for the day, and she's talking about, why don't I leave? And, I need to get out of this podunk town, but these people are my family. But she's dealing with the monsters of hanging around. We've got Lily dealing with monsters of her past that she can't really face. Luke is dealing with multiple monsters that he cannot face. And so we really get that great sense. You have a great grounding force with the sheriff. Skeeta Jenkins is the sheriff, who says, everybody's got issues. We got meetings down the church. You can always come by. So he is the single voice with everybody else swirling around him. And I love how you have structured the story so everything comes to fruition and is revealed as we go through the film. And that's tough to do. And I'm wondering, having it on paper and fleshed out, then you shoot it, how did all of that change, or did it, once it was in your hands in editing?
Yeah, so this is kind of a very interesting thing that I experienced, especially like you just said with editing. So I had the idea for all of these characters and how the story would really intertwine and, like you said, be revealed as the story's going. Mm-hmm. But what really happened was, like I kind of mentioned earlier, where I had this original idea for the story, and when I had to change things with the sister and the Elle and Luke dynamic. So very luckily we were, and I guess I can say I was editing the film while we were filming, and we pretty much filmed in order.
Wow.
And so I always knew that about halfway through the film, so right before the monologue scene, the way that we were going to have a little bit of a break because the holidays were coming up. So I kind of knew like that was going to be a good break where I could sit down with that first half of the film and really just, really make sure everything was working, because very luckily we had that sort of time, like, that I was able to really sit and just let that play quite a few times, show certain people. Well, with the editing, so once we got about that halfway point, so in the bar scene where Luke and Lily are first meeting and they're having a discussion, so Lily says a line, and the way that she delivered it just kept really being very impactful to me as I was editing and watching these playbacks. And so there was a certain direction that the film was going to go in the second half, but the way that she delivered that line, I just could not get it out of my head, and I saw this whole new side of things. Mm-hmm. And that's how, honestly, the Cyrus character was born, because in that moment, that's just what my mind went to, and I saw this new direction, and it just felt like, again, my gut was telling me to go with that direction. So I sat down and wrote that out, and then started talking with the cast, and I was like, hey guys, this could be a gamble, but what do you think if we go in this whole new direction? And everybody was on board with it. Everybody loved this new direction. And so as a writer, and a director, producer, that can for sure be very nerve-wracking, because it's like, okay, we're going in this whole new direction. But that's what I find so fascinating as an actor when we're in a scene, how when things don't go as planned, that's how beauty and those beautiful moments can be defined. So kind of discovering that as a filmmaker was really fascinating to me as well. So yeah, the editing, had I not have been able to sit down and kind of do the dailies and start piecing the film together, I don't know what exactly would have happened, but again, it just all worked out so beautifully, and I'm so proud of it.
I'm tickled that you were filming relatively in order, so that you could have that realization moment while you're still filming.
Yeah.
Because heaven help us if you just picked up on that while you were in the edit, and it's okay, is there money to go back and do pickups to get everybody together, reshoots? Yeah. So, I mean, this film is a good example of why shooting in order is a good thing.
Oh, 100%. Especially when it comes to, a smaller budget indie film. 100%.
Now, I'm curious, your work with Brandon, because some of the things that I mentioned, the Dutching. The Dutching, the camera Dutching is just superb in the scenes with Samuel French as Cyrus. Because it really, we see who's in control. And it's not anybody that he's in a scene with. It's all about him. Those angles that Brandon got, he had to have that camera all the way down on the floor to get some of those shots. Not easy shots to get. Then, of course, we've got ECUs, not just the ones that you shot during your monologue scene, but other ones. And I have to say, the bar scenes, the lighting in the bar scenes is fantastic. That blue note, the blue wash that we have, over everything is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And then later in the film, we've also got a scene with where we've got the red, yellow, white, and green visual effects over top that people like to do on their camera, on their cell phones to their photos.
Yeah.
Talk to me about developing the visual grammar with Brandon. That really helps immerse us in this story.
Yeah, and that's something, again, him and I just are on such a similar wavelength and mindset. And, I've known him for quite a few years, so I knew going into this, like, it was almost just going to be like we had one mindset as far as when we were there and we were working together, because, movies that are just so colorful and the colors that just pop, like, in like a Nicholas Winding Refn film, neon plays such a big lighting in movies like that. And I've always been fascinated how just colors can really change the tone of film. And so when I knew, like, we were going to film in a bar situation, that's really a beautiful thing about bars, is you can walk in during the day and it's so bright outside, but once you're in that bar, I mean, your mood can be affected by the colors that are in that bar. And I've always been fascinated by that. So we were very intentional with the lighting and making sure things just were visually interesting, because I wanted the cinematography to almost feel like its own character in the movie, and the lighting to feel like its own character. So him and I, we sat down and we really planned that out. And as far as him with the camera, we were very inspired by movies by like Terrence Malick films, and how the camera is very free flowing, and it almost is like the camera is part of this choreography of whatever's going on in these scenes. And I had never quite seen something like it with a thriller film or something very intense going on. And so again, we just were like, hey, let's just try this and see what happens. And after we filmed those scenes with Samuel French, especially that third act, and I told Brendan, I was like, honestly, just trust your gut and just flow with whatever is happening in the scene, because I want this camera to, I mean, if you want to get so close to my face, like, get really in there, because I want the audience to really feel like they're a part of this. And I think that would add to the, the intensity that was going on. And there was a couple of times after, we were done filming, he was like, man, I don't know how you're going to edit this, but that was amazing. And like, he was having so much fun being behind the camera and getting really into the scene, that like, there were times he said he's sweating because, like, Samuel French is just delivering an amazing performance, and then he'd cut over to Kendall Kavner as Lily, back to me as Luke, and he just felt like he was in the scene too. But I think it does help in some ways, because he's also an actor, and so I found that interesting dynamic of where, as an actor, with him with the camera, it really was like its own character. So it was just such a cool process.
And poor Brandon, not only is he your cinematographer, working with the lighting, the camera.
Right.
He also has a small part as one of the barflies, Darren, and he composed the music for the film.
Yep.
You do believe in everybody wearing multiple hats, don't you?
Oh yes, and that's one thing I've kind of discovered too, is the people that you surround yourself with. With making films, it's so collaborative that I want them to shine as well. So I knew Brandon played the guitar, and he liked, just, we would, anytime we would hang out, there would be times he would just pull out the guitar. And that's what I told him at one point. I was like, hey man, what do you think about coming up with some of these scores? Because I want them to feel very raw and very visceral. And so there was one night we just sat down and he'd play some of those scores, and we would just, we just got really into it. And also, though, it's I have to say Chris Bruza was a big help. He plays the man that's at the bar that after Lily and Cliff have their scene, and she's asking exactly who Luke is. So that actor, his name's Chris Bruza, he helped out a lot behind the scenes too. And he actually shot the very beginning of the film, because Brendan's from Texas, and we were filming in Oklahoma, and he wasn't, again, able to make it that day. So I had to make another decision for that opening shot where Chris was there. And so it was like, I just pretty much told him, I was like, Chris, how do you feel about filming this scene? Because that was a location called the Great Salt Plains, and that was literally the only day we could film that. And so, yeah, I just have a lot of trust because these are people that I believe in them as artists. So I want them to shine and feel like they have as much in this process as I do.
Now, I've got to ask you, with the music, with Brandon's scoring that you've got, did you have that before you started editing? How did that impact the edit, or did it? Because so often when editors are cutting, they're cutting to temp scores. Sometimes they're lucky enough to have the actual score. Sometimes they don't. So I'm curious how that worked for you with this one.
Yeah, so what was interesting is when we first got the equipment and the camera, and we were kind of experimenting with which type of lenses we were going to use. Well, they all arrived one night, and I went down to Texas where Brendan was, and we just went around his apartment complex, and we did some like little test shoots and stuff. But we did it in a way that I kind of knew this was going to be the style of how we were going to film this. So when we were playing back the footage that we were shooting, that night is when we pretty much sat down, and I told him, let's just come up with some scores and then see, whenever the filming started, if those would actually work or not. Because the beauty was, too, is I knew Brendan, he had his guitar, he had his setup. So if need be, we could come up with something else. But, yeah, those initial scores are what's all in the movie. Like, it all just worked perfectly. And so when I was editing, I did have that luxury where I was able to kind of put that in. And, yeah, it was just amazing to see how it actually all played out and just made those scenes that much more intense and visceral.
Yeah, because of the very nature of the music, it's not a traditional score.
Yeah.
With the instrumentation and the way that Brandon manipulates that with the emotion, it really serves as a backdrop, a strong backdrop in some cases. And that's something you need, because you need something that's going to be, that grates with Luke's emotions when he's in a bad spot. You can't have something that's soft and sweet and romantic. You've got to have something that's going to clash with Luke's emotion. So, I mean, it's really wonderful. I love what Brandon did and how that impacted your work with the editing. Just all around. This is such a job, so well done, Devin. But I have to ask, montages. You like montages, don't you?
I do. I've always been really drawn to those. And, whenever I was editing, I was able to kind of, because this really, I taught myself how to edit during 2020 because I had a lot of time. And I think in the back of my head, I was always planning to do something like making a feature film like this, but I just had no idea it was going to be this soon. So, yeah, when I was editing and learning, how to do all that, this film, I was able to just put everything that I love kind of into it. And montages for sure are part of that.
Yeah, I think I counted 6 of them that you have, 6 or 7, and then you throw in voiceover also. So you really were just, for your feature debut, you really were just sweetening the pot at every turn. Everything you could possibly do, you were doing. And you did it well. So now that the film is getting ready to come out, as you sit back now and reflect on this first feature experience, what did you learn about yourself as a filmmaker that you can now take forward into your future productions?
Yeah, and see, that has been such an interesting process, and I've almost likened it to like this whole journey's been like a video game. So it's, each level, it's just been a different process. And the biggest thing that I've learned about myself as a filmmaker is, again, I've mentioned it quite a few times, but just going with your gut. And if it's something that you believe in, I think that's kind of the amazing thing that this process has shown, that there's still a place for these smaller films, but that have a lot of heart in them. And that's something that I'm so passionate about. And that's my foot's still on the gas. Like, we haven't really taken my foot off at all, because we've shot 2 new proof of concepts, one of which we're more than likely turning that into a feature film next year. It's going to be a little bit smaller scale, but the stakes and everything are going to be just raised that much more. But making those as well, again, being writer, director, actor. I think I just found this really interesting dynamic with that, and being able to get people involved in our films that I believe in. I think that's the biggest thing. The people I surround myself with, I want them to shine as well. So as a filmmaker, again, it's just trusting your gut and just trying to make these stories that really people can relate to and feel a very personal level. Because our film, I've heard a lot of people say they haven't quite seen something like it before, or it reminds them of a film that maybe would have come out during like the 70s because of these like gritty and raw performances. And I think there's still a place for movies like that, which is, I think it's so amazing. And so, we're just really going to keep experimenting and exploring that.
Job so well done, Devin. I cannot.
Well, thank you so much.
I can't wait to see what this next film of yours turns out to be.
It's I'm editing it currently, and one's done and ready to go. That one's called See You in Your Sleep, and we've started submitting it to film festivals. But the one that I think is going to be next, it's it's definitely very intense, and the performances again are just so amazing, and I'm so excited to see people how they respond to it.
And are you in it as well, besides writing, directing, editing?
Yeah, so in the one that I think we're doing next, I wrote, directed, and starring in it, but I'm going to really explore my evil side, I guess you can say, in this one. So, but it's definitely in line of a very gruesome, body horror-esque type film.
You can never go wrong with gruesome body-esque horror.
Exactly. Oh, yes.
That always will work.
Oh, yeah.
Devin, this has been so wonderful getting to talk with you today about Monsters Within. And I hope we get to chat again in the future about your upcoming projects.
Oh, yes. And again, thank you so much for having me. And I have to give, a quick shout out because this film is dedicated to Samuel French because he did very sadly pass away earlier this year. And the film is dedicated to him, and the release is dedicated to him. And this is one of his final performances. So I'm just so excited to get his talent out there because he truly was one of a kind, and his family, in some ways, they're excited too because it's been a tough year for them, but they're excited to almost see him again, once this film releases and people can kind of like see, because this was a role he just really dove in and wanted to see, and I'm glad he got to see the success we've had with the film festivals and getting picked up. But I just had to say that because he was such an amazing part of this journey.
And everybody will be able to see Monsters Within next Friday on October the 3rd.
Yep.
Digitally.
October 3rd.
Are there any plans?
Amazon Prime, Fandango at home. Oh, yeah.
Any plans for a theatrical at all, or just sticking with the digital?
Yeah, so I think we are going to do something closer to Veterans Day. So around November 7th, we've been looking at doing potentially, I think we're going to stick with like Oklahoma, Texas, possibly Arkansas. So around kind of the area where we filmed. But I've been talking to a couple theaters that seem very interested, and I would love to do something where, we're teaming up where it's going to support a veteran organization and also a special needs organization as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Devin.
Yes, thank you so much, Debbie. And we will definitely be talking again in the future. But I appreciate you taking your time watching the movie, talking with me, and this was so amazing.
And that was Devin Montgomery talking Monsters Within. And you can see Monsters Within right now from the comfort of your own couch on various digital platforms. Now, that is all the time we have for today. I hope you'll check out One Big Happy Family in the theater and Monsters Within from your couch. And do yourselves a big favor and do not miss Kiss of the Spider Woman, which opens in theaters this Friday, October 10th. I've seen it already, and it is resplendent. Another hotly anticipated film that opens exclusively in theaters this Friday is Tron Ares, which I'm anxious to see because of the cinematography of Jeff Cronenweth. Now join me again next week as we'll be talking Weed Hacker Massacre with producer-actor Alan Danziger and producer-writer Ray Spivey. These two are fantastic, and this is a perfect movie to help put you in a Halloween mood. So, until then, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.